Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Joe Ellis. I'm a commercial wedding and portrait photographer in Dallas, Texas. And tonight I want to talk to you guys about an article that's been circling on the internet recently from Tony and Chelsea Northrup about the death of Micro Four Thirds. And I just wanted to kind of go through the points they made and kind of make a few counterpoints here because I think I've gotten a lot of emails and whatnot and comments about this particular piece of news. And I just thought there's a few things I think we should all keep in mind and a few counterpoints that I want to raise about the points that they kind of brought up. Now, the first thing I'll tell you is that Tony's a very smart guy, and I'm not refuting any of the facts that he presented in his presentation and whatnot. But I do think there's a few things that you could keep in mind if you're a Micro Four Thirds shooter that are certainly up for debate about the future of any camera system that's out there. So let's go through the 5 points that Tony made and just kind of talk about them a little bit. I'll give you my views and maybe we can get a discussion going in the comments. The first point he made is that small cameras are going to be obsolete because of cell phones. And, I think that a lot of that, of course, has already happened. I mean, a lot of the compact camera market is gone. And, while we still have some specialized tools like the Olympus Tough series, the TG5 and whatnot, if it doesn't have a really niche kind of space, then it's hard to compete against a cell phone for just basic point and shoot functionality. But I think we're a long ways off from cell phones taking over for even parent photographers on a full-time basis because of the lenses. I think that if your kids do things that are like recitals and sports and, anything where they're performing a distance away from you, then you really need a dedicated camera because a cell phone just is never, I don't know how they're going to do this, but until they're able to put a long telephoto lens on the camera as a part of the camera system on your cell phone, it's never going to replace your dedicated camera. And if they do that, then cell phone cameras are not going after Micro Four Thirds, they're going after the entire full frame market. I think that between being able to blur the background and having a long telephoto lens, they would make a very compelling argument as to why you should carry any camera at all. So are small sensors going to be obsolete because of cell phones? I don't think Micro Four Thirds is in any more danger of this than full frame is. Okay, so the second point they brought up is full frame is going to keep getting cheaper. I think that's probably true, but here's the thing. Like Tony and Chelsea, they review every camera that comes onto the market, and they're constantly looking at new model and new model and new model and new model and new model. And that's not how the most of us kind of work. That's not how the average photographer kind of lives. And I think that it gets them into a trap of constantly looking at is this one incrementally better than this one? And that may be true if you are buying a camera that's from scratch, you have absolutely no legacy attachment to anything whatsoever. But when you look at what it actually means in your photography, it means so little. Basically every camera that's on the market and any Olympus camera can take a fantastic photo. And I just think that we maybe are reaching the point of really diminishing returns. Back when everybody shot 35 millimeter film, every camera was purchased based on features, not based on image quality, other than maybe lens lineup. But the camera bodies themselves were about the way you make photos, not necessarily the quality of that picture. And I think that, between Micro Four Thirds and awesome APS-C sensors and full frame sensors, nearly all of the sensors that are on the market are capable of delivering results that fit almost every need that the average photographer has. So which system you pick isn't really that important in terms of image quality. All of them will do the job. And I think that, some people are going to keep chasing the lowest light performance and the highest ISO and all that kind of good stuff. And more power to them. If that's really important to their photography or really important to them, then they should definitely do that. But that doesn't mean that you can't go out with any of the Micro Four Thirds cameras today or tomorrow or whatever and tackle just about any job that you can throw at them. So, I will tell you that, I have been shooting the Micro Four Thirds system for quite a while now, and what I really feel brought to the table for me is that at the time that these came out, especially, and because there is some overlap as new features come out with cameras, but when these came out, the sensor-based image stabilization, the tilty flippy screen, the autofocus, the speed of the camera, all of these things, including pro capture and live composite, all offered me opportunities to add to my portfolio in ways that other camera systems couldn't. And that was way more important to me than little incremental differences in the quality of the image file, based on whatever parameters that you might be looking at. So when I got the camera and I tested it against, my full frame stuff that I had at the time, this was delivering exactly the same results in my mind in terms of image quality. So what it really boiled down to is which set of features did I want in a camera body? And the EM1 Mark II just blew it away for me in terms of what I'm able to do quickly, efficiently, and creatively when I'm working. Okay. Small sensors do not equal small lenses. This is an argument that I see a lot on the internet, and he's absolutely right here. If you are trying to compare equivalent depth of field and the size of the lenses, so between full frame and micro four thirds, a lot of the full frame lenses that have equivalent depth of field, not equivalent f-stops, but equivalent depth of field, are the same size or smaller than micro four thirds lenses, at least the Pro line. But here's what I'll tell you about that. No one has as good a lineup, and no one has as professional, rugged, weather-sealed, sharp, pro build a lineup as micro four thirds does. Olympus makes a pro line of lenses that is unrivaled by anything that is in that range for a full frame camera. So if you are looking for small, super high quality gear, I think that Olympus has a corner on that market, or micro four thirds. And I think that other companies like Fuji and other ones also have very smaller, higher quality kit. But if you are looking for that, if you want if you're okay with that kind of depth of field, for example, and you are okay with micro four thirds in that sense, but you really want rugged, weather sealed gear that's going to last a lifetime, then Olympus makes an absolutely outstanding choice. Okay, the fourth thing that he brought up is that bigger sensors make better photos, and that's a myth that everybody believes, but it's not necessarily true if you were using f-stops that were equivalent in depth of field and so on and so forth. So bigger sensors equal better photos. Is that a myth that everybody believes and a reason why micro four thirds will die? I think this is being busted every day. When I talk to Olympus photographers, a lot of the time, they've already owned full frame cameras, and they're coming to micro four thirds from that system. And the more and more and more I see of that, the answer for them is that they are willing to make that trade-off, that having that high performance camera body in a small package, being able to carry the 300 millimeter f4 instead of their 600 millimeter f4. Yes, there are changes in the effective look of the image and depth of field and whatnot, but they are willing to make that trade-off because it means they get out there more, they take more photos, they have more fun. And I think that happens over and over and over and over and over again. As a matter of fact, I think that for micro four thirds, most of the time, it's not people's very first camera system. Most of the time when I talk to Olympus photographers, it's because they had a system previously, and then they moved into the micro four thirds world for the reasons of the advantages that it provides. So if that keeps happening, then I don't think micro four thirds has anything to worry about. Okay, and then the fifth thing is that the interchangeable lens market, ILC market, is shrinking. Tony can predict that as much as he wants, but I don't think he has any insider knowledge that we don't have. Certainly he thinks and talks about cameras a lot, but I mean, maybe what's happening is that, the technology is shrinking into micro four thirds, and that reduction in size is what's going to be important to people in the future. And, I know that Sony and Nikon and Canon and all of that are all making, mirrorless cameras these days, and they're all getting smaller. And if size doesn't become a priority, of course, they're going to start making smaller and better lenses, and the competition is going to get more and more fierce. But Olympus has been around for almost 100 years now. I believe in them as a company. They have brought so many innovations to the market that have trickled down into other camera systems, not the least of which is like sensor-based image stabilization, that, I really think that in their models to come, it's going to be more about features along with increased image quality, but that's not like the one pillar thing that they're looking to beat everybody else at. It produces very high quality images that I printed up to 30 by 40 inches for my clients. And maybe we've reached that threshold of like this camera is good enough to get any job done. And so maybe we're looking now at other areas, other avenues where we can improve not the noise performance of our cameras, but improve on the content of our images. And I think that vision and content and being able to get to the photo that we want to make overall is the most important thing that we can think about all the time. And so when you choose a camera system, what I'm hoping you're looking at is not like, okay, this one has a half stop better noise performance at 12,800 versus this one. It's like, well, maybe this one has like the ability to tilt and flip the screen and I'll be able to shoot underfoot or overhead. Or maybe the image stabilizer is going to allow me to wander around and capture twice as many photographs because I don't have to set up a tripod. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why you might choose one camera system over another. But noise performance and depth of field, I don't know if those are the panacea for photography for a lot of people. I do think that bokeh and the and being able to shoot wide open has become an epidemic in the photography world. And next week I'm going to do an article. I decided that I'm going to say that super shallow bokeh is probably the enemy of great composition. Shallow depth of field is a compositional tool, but in chasing that all the time, you're eliminating lots of the other choices you have in terms of making a great composition. So we're going to go over all of the rules of composition next week, and I'm going to talk through and give examples of each of them, and hopefully it will help people kind of realize that there are so many different ways to assemble a photograph that have nothing to do with the depth of field. And we'll kind of go from there, guys. So like I said, I love Tony and Chelsea's channel, and they're full-time YouTubers and they got to create articles that just make some buzz and stir things up and whatnot. But if you are a Micro Four Thirds shooter, do not despair. I do not believe that they have insider knowledge of this happening in the near future or in the next 5 years. And even if that does come to pass, guys, I think that our cameras are still going to be able to make great photographs. I think Olympus will adapt and will make changes as necessary to stay in the market, and that we will all be better for it in the end. So keep struggling, keep taking pictures. Thanks for listening. I got to 5,000 subscribers this morning. I was so excited about that. Thank you to everyone that has subscribed. If you haven't already, please do so. We're going to be bringing you new articles and new tutorials every week. We're going to go live again in sponsorship with Olympus coming up soon. And it's going to be a great year. So looking forward to it. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. I'm off to my wedding. I'll see you guys next week.